Hey guys, it's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe, and I wanted to talk about Yakuza Like a Dragon just one more time. This is going to be my final video on the topic. I know I've spoken about it when I got it, and then I did a pickups video and talked about it again. But I just beat this yesterday, and I just wanted to talk about it once more because I really loved it. This is my first Yakuza game. I know that's kind of blasphemy because a lot of people love the Yakuza series. However, most of them were on PlayStation. I did actually own, I think, one of them on PSP. It was an import, but I never played it. So this is my first one that I've played, and it was awesome. My friend Patrick sent me it. Thank you again to Patrick. Yakuza is normally a Shenmue type game with an open world, with fighting being in real time, and just this open world feeling in Japan where you can go into places and play arcade games and sit down and eat food and talk to people, and it has just tons of this big city type of feel. At least this one does, and I think all of them do. However, this one, unlike the other ones, is a turn-based RPG as well. So the fighting system went from being real-time, kicking and punching and learning combos and stuff, to a turn-based RPG. It's awesome. The plot line starts out initially with your character being a lowling Yakuza, kind of like, a really low-rank guy, and they go into his backstory of how he became a Yakuza, and he's very likable and sort of goofy, he has a charm to him, and you end up taking the fall for someone that's going to go to prison for something, and you go to prison. Then when you get out of prison, the story really kicks off. So it's 18 years later. It's very funny. Your character, doesn't know what a cell phone is. Technology is completely over his head. And he says things throughout the game that are really humorous because he's lacking all that stuff. So the interactions are very funny. He eventually pairs up with a homeless guy who has his own backstory, an ex-cop who has his own backstory. Everyone has their backstories. And you can bond with each of the characters that you join and raise their levels and get to have more backstory and know kind of what they came from and then help them in certain ways. The fighting is great and very fun. There really wasn't even one time where I was annoyed by a fight I got into. And you can see all the bad guys on the screen, so if you want to, it's a little difficult sometimes, but you can avoid them by taking other paths to your locations that you want to go to. Tons and tons of side quests, little stories, mini games. You can race a go-kart, you can race a cart collecting cans in the neighborhood to get points. You can make girls fall in love with you and sleep with them. I mean, you can go to school and pass exams to make your certain attributes rise. You have like charm, passion, intellect. You can raise them, and then different people react different ways to you, and you can get into different things depending on if your levels are high enough. I mean, this game is just chock full of tons and tons of stuff to do in this very lively Japan city world, Really cool, has some quirky humor, even has a little bit of that Earthbound charm where it's like a nowadays RPG with normal people, and your guy is like hyper-focused on Dragon Quest, which is, I just picked up Dragon Quest 11. I have yet to play it, it's my first Dragon Quest game, but I digress. And your guy, Ichi, is focused on like everything's like a video game, and you're leveling up and you're meeting bad people, which are like bad guys, and going through these trials and tribulations. I cannot say enough good things about this game. I think it is, I had said years ago that I think it was Persona 4 Golden on the Vita had gotten me back into JRPGs. I haven't really played one since. This game, again, right back into JRPGs. It's pretty much perfect. There was two things I didn't like about it. There is a little bit of a difficulty spike. There's 15 chapters. The game's about, I think, 40 hours. More like 50-something if you do the extra stuff. I'm probably like 40 hours in when I completed it. I think I was level 60. So there's a ton of stuff to do and subquests and all this stuff, so the game can really be as long as you want it to be if you want to go back and get the extra stuff. Some of it's randomized, so it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. So like right now I'm trying to do this random thing and pick up these prostitutes, and that's not something you hear every day. And I'm not finding them because they're random, so it's annoying, but otherwise, the game is kind of as long as you want. So the two things I did not like about the game. Love the combat. The story overall was good and interesting. You felt for the characters. Your main guy is a little bit of a suck ass, where he is so committed to love and family and devoted to friends, and I think that's great quality-wise in a person. I think all of us should have that, and hopefully all of us do in some way. But people abuse him throughout the game, beat him up. I mean, there's instances where he gets shot, and he's still siding with these people. He's able to look past it. It sort of reminds me of Chopper Reed when he said in his movie, and when Eric Bana said in Chopper, you know, it's like if your mom stabs you, you would just get over it. It's just your mom. I could feel that way with definitely certain family members and my wife and stuff, but it's just funny how in the game he just constantly has this devotion that's to a fault. So my two negatives about the game, now that I've rambled for a while, are there's a spike in difficulty at one point where you fight an old character from another Yakuza game, and that you can get over that spike pretty quickly, and it makes sense. At the end of the game, the second to last boss is very cheap and long and very defensive, so you're not doing much damage to him. As you're fighting him, he eventually starts doing these one-punch knockouts. And if he knocks out your main character in one punch, game over, and you have to start the fight completely over, and it takes about 30 to 40 minutes to get back to that point of the fight. Very, very cheap, very annoying. There's one skill called, like, I want to say it's Peerless Command, that you can use and your character won't get knocked out. That's the only way that I'm aware of, besides using an item that makes you not get knocked out. To not get knocked out near the end of the game, you think you're going to finish and then you get knocked out. So that was very frustrating for me. It took me like 3 or 4 tries, it was about 4 tries to finally beat him, use this ability and whatever. But I didn't look it up. I probably would have just kept dying and getting pissed off. The other thing is, as much as I like the story and I like how devoted he is and he's all about love and his friends and family and all this stuff, I'm not going to spoil the story, but there's 2 characters in the story that are intertwined, and how do I say this without spoiling it? It's so unbelievable what happens to these 2 characters that there's no way this could happen. It's just, there's too much of a coincidence, and it sort of, you have to suspend disbelief. And I get it's a game, I know with movies and games you have to suspend disbelief with certain things, but I feel like the rest of it sort of has a realistic side to it, especially because it's based in realism for the most part. This was so silly story-wise that it just felt muddled and sort of tacked on. I felt like it wasn't necessary particularly, but that was the only 2 negatives about the game. I would have given the game a 10. I'm going to give it a 9 because of those 2 things, but I thought it was just phenomenal. I mean, I don't, if you know me, I don't really sit down to play RPGs much anymore. I lack the time. I don't like grinding. This game doesn't feel like a grind at all. It was so fun that I made time, and I played it in spurts, which I love about games in general, when you could sit down and play an hour or half hour. And for the most part, there are some parts of the game that are very long. Dungeons and stuff you go into that can be lengthy, that will take an hour, hour and a half, or whatever. But for the most part, you can pick up and play and do what you want when you want. It's great. So, if you like Japanese RPGs, play Like a Dragon. If you wanted to see Shenmue develop into an RPG, play Like a Dragon, because it's exactly like Shenmue, but broader. If you like the comedic stylings of Earthbound, but not as goofy or silly, but that realistic tone in an RPG, play Like a Dragon. I cannot mention enough how great it is. So, that being said, I am going to put on my wish list, or I already have put on my wish list, Yakuza Judgment, which I hear is very good. So that's coming out on the Xbox One, I think in April. It's $40. So I'm going to eventually pick that up, probably when it drops to like $20, $25, because I'm a cheapskate. But let me know, guys, if you've played Yakuza Like a Dragon, what you thought. Some people didn't like that it went in a turn-based RPG direction. I haven't played the other one, so I couldn't really chime in on that, but I thought it was awesome. Thanks guys for watching. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Be good.